All right, you ready?
Never gonna be.
Hey, Sean, can you believe it? We're finally here. It's great to finally be recording Two Rad Dads.
That's right, Matt. We're actually recording our first episode.
Yeah, now everyone can get off our backs, right?
We've been hearing about it from people for
Right, we're here.
quite a while.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, we have been talking about this for over a year now.
Forever. This is awesome. I'm so excited.
So what is it that we're actually talking about? What is this venture we're setting out on?
This is nostalgia based, really. We're going to be talking about awesome things that we enjoyed, specifically more from the 80s and 90s, other decades thrown in as well, but primarily since those were our decades we grew up in.
Is that what they call it? Early 80s kids? So we're going to focus probably on a lot of things that we are interested in, you know, being from that age group. Kids who grew up with no cell phones and no computers and kind of saw it all come to fruition.
And hopefully we can embarrass our kids while we're at this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and maybe they'll make a guest appearance on here as well.
Oh, for sure. I think we'll definitely try to get them maybe to appreciate some of the things that they have missed out on.
Yeah.
We'll bring in some other guests around here and there, and I think we'll take some deep dives on some topics, some fun, some silly, some serious, who knows?
Yep. And one of the great topics is actually episode 1. It's something I hold near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
I actually still play this game. I did the other day and still did not make it to the end. As ridiculous as it sounds.
Matt, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word dysentery?
Oregon Trail.
Is there literally any other thing that comes to mind?
No.
No, there's really not. It's
Nope.
the Oregon Trail game. So what are your early memories of Oregon Trail? What are your personal experiences with this game?
Being frustrated because all my friends died. And I wasn't even halfway yet.
You know, it really was an interesting way to introduce the topic of all your friends dying to elementary school kids in the late 80s.
It's really a
and early 90s.
morbid game if you think about it.
It really is. You just punch in your friends' names and you'd set out on a wagon trail from Independence, Missouri, and you'd probably lose most of your friends and family along the way. That's just how
Because
it went.
who plays the game and does not put their friends or family
Of course you do.
or even your idols, you know, celebrities or stuff, in your wagon with you,
Absolutely.
right? No,
Yeah,
it's not. You're putting some random stranger or whatever. No, it's always your friends. And like, what happens out of the gate? You hit your first river, and Ronimo drowns. You're like literally 30 seconds into the game, and he drowns.
Yeah, you got to be careful fording those rivers, you know? Would you take the Indian guide, or would you take the, what do they call it? Float the river, I think, right? You take
Yeah.
the wheels off.
Yep. In elementary school, I think we only had like 2 computers in the whole place. They were the monochrome apples, and we could either play Oregon Trail or that banana tossing game. I forget what that's called.
Not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's just you throw banana, you're a monkey, you throw bananas, and you blow up buildings with explosive bananas.
I feel like I might have missed out.
Yeah, it wasn't that fun. It was just taught you, you know, the different angles to throw things and whatever. No one ever played it. We all played the Oregon Trail.
In my case, the early memory I have is going to my school's computer lab, which was itself new, right? They kicked some teacher out of her classroom and they made it into a computer lab. And we would go in there, and in the middle of the room, there were 2 floppy disk boxes. And there were 3 pieces of software that the school owned. That was it. 3. One of them was an extremely rudimentary word processor. The second was number crunchers. And the third was the Oregon Trail. And typically when we would go to the computer lab, the teacher would give us something we had to type. I don't know if that was the justification for having computer lab time, but we'd have to type something out from our English class or something like that. There weren't enough Oregon Trails to go around. So everyone would try to type as fast as they possibly could and get their work done as quickly as possible so that they got their hands on the coveted 5 1/4 inch black floppy disk. And I mean floppy disks, right? Before they were like the save icon,
Yeah. Yeah, the 3.5 solid disc.
That came later.
Yeah.
I remember plopping those discs in and, cranking the little tab down.
Yeah, make sure it's locked in.
Apple IIs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Initially, we had the monochrome green and black screens.
Yep, that's all we had.
Later on, we ended up with the, crappy color ones. But for a long time, we had just the monochrome screens. And it was great. I remember this was, like I said, it was our first introduction to the idea of a computer game. Even video games as a whole were relatively new for at home, right? This is the same time period where Nintendo had just come out a couple of years prior.
Yep. Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't get an upgrade in computers until I transferred schools in high school. We had some at home, but we were Windows 3.1 we're 95 probably by that point. So it was Stellar and Minesweeper and Solitaire at home, but we didn't have Oregon Trail until later at home. When it came out on CD, we had the CD version of Oregon Trail.
Ooh,
Yeah.
high tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a CD-ROM.
Yes, CD-ROM. We had the CD-ROM. I think it was a 2-disc set, I think, for some reason.
Well,
I remember it was in a
with
bigger...
all that data.
Yeah.
So let's take a little look at the game itself. For those of us out there who may not be as familiar with the game as we are.
Started out as a card game for school. It was a teacher that developed it.
It was a teacher that developed it, a student teacher, no less, who was still in college in Minnesota in 1971.
I would have guessed late 70s, early 80s, but yeah, that's pretty early.
So apparently the first versions of the game were, pretty basic. I did look them up prior to recording this just because I was curious, and they were very basic. There were no, graphics of any kind, and it was just text-based. You would, type your responses.
Well, it was started as a card game, so they just converted it from a card game to
Was it
computer.
a card game?
Maybe it was the concept that was a card game. He developed it on cards, and then they
Two friends.
evolved it into the program.
And a couple of years later, it became pretty popular. They shared it on the network, quote unquote network of schools in Minnesota. And then the Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium, the MECC, that's like when you first turn it on, that graphic that comes up, is the one who decided to develop it more for the classroom.
It's a state-funded educational software company.
And this is really where it took off. So the version of the game that I'm most familiar with, obviously the game's been adapted through the years. There was different versions dating all the way back to that school version in 71, all the way up through the version in the 80s that became very popular on the Apple II, through to an upgrade in the 90s and 2000s. But the classic edition, I think that most people can agree on, is the 1985/1990 upgraded versions.
So do you know anybody that's ever completed the game with everybody
No,
alive?
no, I'm sure it's been done, but
No.
that's insane.
Yeah, no, I always just made sure.
You
I
were
was
lucky
the
if you
ones
just
with
made
her.
it, period. I mean, that was pretty much the goal.
So one thing that I didn't realize with this game is you actually play for points.
You do play for points.
I had no idea about
Yeah,
that.
well, you actually have
Until
to get to the end of
I
the
was getting
game
ready for
to
this
see
podcast. I think I've only completed once or twice. And I was just so ecstatic that I finished. I don't think I realized there was points.
Yeah, I've definitely finished a number of times, but I've never really done well enough in the points to rank very high. I think I've made it on the top 10, but not nowhere near the top.
Yeah, so depending on how you start. So if you do the banker, obviously you have a ton of money to get resources to help you through the trail. You actually start with a lot less
Correct.
points.
Well, what it is
if you
it's a
start as a
multiplier.
farmer.
So,
Yeah, so if you start as a farmer, you really have to struggle, but when you get to the end of the Oregon Trail, farming is a well sought after skill, so you get more points for that than a banker. No one cares out west about a banker because no one really has any money. You're living off the land. So I did not know that. That's blew my mind that there's actually a point system to this game. I was trying to survive with as many of your friends as you could, but usually when you finish, it's only just you hanging on by a thread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so typically the game starts, you pick the type of person you want to be, right? So as you talked about, there's the banker from Boston, who starts with $1,600. The carpenter from Ohio, middle ground, who starts with $800, but whose points are doubled at the end. And then the farmer from Illinois, who starts with only $400, which is quite meager, but their points are tripled at the end. So, it's kind of like easy, medium, and hard modes right there, right? Because at the beginning, you're going to be asked to buy a bunch of supplies. From where, Matt? Matt's General Store, obviously.
That's right.
You're going to go see our buddy Matt in Independence, Missouri. The thing you learn early on, the first time you play, is every product goes up in price the further you get in the game. So it is the smart play to just buy it all at the beginning.
Yeah, and when you start as a banker, like you could load up everything recommended for your trip and you're only using half your money. So you could easily spend the ridiculous money out on the trail.
Yeah.
And hope you don't get robbed.
That was tough. When you'd have like a thief come in the night, some bastard just comes in the middle of the night, steals my axles. Come on now. I need those axles. Those wagon tongues.
Or crash and...
Or your wagon catches fire. Remember that? Oh,
Yeah.
that was the worst. That was even worse than the robber, because that would just take everything out.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you'd lose your sister and your brother and all your outfits, your coonskin caps, bullets.
That was another thing. The hunting part of the game. Amazing.
That was a fun part of the game. I remember there was always kids in class who just hunted. That's all they cared about. They would just hunt over and over and over again.
But that's the one thing that I don't get about this game. It teaches wasteful hunting.
Well, I don't know that it actually teaches it.
It does, because it allows you to kill, 15,000 pounds.
Oh yeah, you would go up there
but you can only take 100 pounds back.
You'd take 2 buffalo, 3 deer, and a rabbit on accident who just happened to run in front of your shot, and you ended up with like 700 pounds of meat, and you could only keep like 100 pounds, right?
Right, but that's all the majority of the people do is just go hunting.
Yeah, it's like they're playing their own
because they know
game.
they're not making it to the end. Yeah, they know they're not making it to the end, so they just hunt.
But I guess those are the people that run out of bullets.
Leave these carcasses everywhere.
Yeah. I've always thought more like, well, if there's 5 people in the party, why can't you bring a partner to carry an extra 100 pounds back with you?
Isn't there a way when you can get somebody to go with you so you get the extra,
No.
you double up?
Not that I know of. The other thing that you have to be careful about is your pace of travel, right? You've got the slow, medium, and fast there too. If you go too fast, you become more exhausted, your animal's more tired, you're less likely to stay healthy. But if you go too slow the whole time, you're not going to make it there before winter. And you're going to be stuck in snowbanks, and it's going to take you over a year to get there. So you got to kind of balance that too.
That's why I always just go grueling.
Well,
You
no
push
wonder why
through.
you all die.
Watch the people in your party just drop off.
That's why you all die every time.
It's about me. It's
Well.
about me. What do they do other than consume my resources?
I guess that's one way to look at it. You lighten the load.
Yeah, so Ronnie Moe dropping dead in the first 30 seconds of the game because he drowned? Like, come on. Awesome. I got supplies for you, bud, and now you didn't use any of them. I think you had one meal.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's talk about how you can die.
We love you, Ron.
So I managed to come up with an exhaustive list of all the ways you can die in this game.
All right.
Okay, so obviously you can die of disease, right? So there's cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and measles. Obviously dysentery is the one that gets the press. You know, it's got the t-shirts now and everything. And then there's a broken arm, a broken leg, and a snake bite.
Yep.
These are interesting.
Yeah, that's how Mark died in my last game, was a broken leg.
Yeah, like the broken arm's tough to figure out. How do you die from a broken arm? I guess, I don't know. I guess
It gets infected.
maybe if it's a compound fracture and it gets infected.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. Do they make games like this anymore?
I doubt it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think in the games now, you would be the guy stealing the stuff.
Yeah, so like today's games, I don't know of any that are as, I guess, addicting and educational.
Yeah, it really
Is
was
that-
addicting.
Because, I mean, you've got the games, you know, like your Fortnites or Call of Duties or, you know, your sports games or whatever these days. But, you know, that's not really stuff that, you know, in school, they're like, oh, yeah, go ahead and play.
Right. So I think it's one of those things that is just a classic piece of our childhood. It really, I think the timing of it is really what sets it apart, in that the game really transcends because of the time in which it came out. It came out as computers came out, right, into
Right.
schools. So we were introduced to this game at the same time as we were introduced to computers. So for most kids our age, their earliest memory of using a computer at all is probably playing this game.
Yeah, because, I mean, as much as it was a distraction for us in school, you know, it did supposedly teach lessons.
Well, no, I mean, it really did. It was based in
It-
truth. Obviously, they stretched the truth in many areas, but it was based in reality.
Right, and so that you had that historical piece, but then it also taught you, you know, how to ration, how to, you know, spend your money, you know, different skills like that.
That's right. So there you go. I'll get some fun facts for you. You ready for this?
Sure.
You ready for some Oregon Trail fun facts?
Yeah, let's do it.
TM. All right. So the trail went through 7 states. Can you name those states? It's okay. I won't put you on the
No,
spot here.
no. Oregon.
It obviously started in Missouri, right? Everyone knows it started Independence, Missouri, and ended in Oregon. But it actually didn't end in Oregon. It ended in Washington.
Yeah.
That's a good trivia question there. Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. In reality, between 1841 and 1884, an estimated 300 to 500,000 people traveled the trail.
Really?
Yep. So along the trail, there were random items strewn along the trail, just tossed along.
Really?
Everything from like a teapot to a piano. People tried bringing the most ridiculous things with them, and they'd get on the trail and realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have brought my piano with me.
Probably took up the whole wagon. And when they're trying to forge the river.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
My last fun fact is not so fun. The most common causes of death were disease, number 1, wagon accidents, number 2, and gunshots, number 3. Which I can see because, you know, I've taken some road trips before, and, you know, like the backseat of a sedan bombing down 95. And, you know, your family kind of gets to you sometimes. You know? So, like,
I don't think that's
I mean,
what
if
that
driving
was.
down the Carolinas is a little rough, then bopping around in a a friggin' wagon all the way to the West Coast, I could see that.
I think it was more, the robberies or the,
Nah.
yeah, hunting accidents or, yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, go with your theory. Yeah.
And so related to that, what I heard, well, not what I heard, but what I read was that these dead bodies that kept popping up along the trail were often built into the trail. They were put on the trail with dirt over them. So you were driving over all these dead bodies as speed bumps.
What?
That's pretty messed up. But apparently it helped keep the smell down. That was the whole thing. It helped keep the smell down to reduce coyotes and stuff.
Huh.
That's a true fact.
Never heard that.
I know. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
There you go. That's my not so fun fact.
Appreciate you sharing.
Well, man, I guess that pretty much wraps up episode 1 of the Two Rad Dads podcast.
It's exciting. Can't believe we actually did it. I can't wait to, get the people off the critics off our back and
all the naysayers out there.
It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait.
We're gonna, hopefully get better as we go, and if not, nobody listens. Whatever. Who cares?
If you're dying for more content, you can find us on the Instagram at tworaddads. You can find us on the Facebooks at tworaddads.
Well, there we go. Hopefully we'll get some content posted there pretty quickly. At the moment, there's nothing, but we're just starting out.
And you can email us at tworaddads@outlook.com.
That's right. Hopefully we get some comments or questions of some sort. We can have a little mailbag in episode 2.
Yeah.
Well, if you've made it this far, we thank you for listening.
And hope to have you join us again on a future episode. So until next time.
Stay rad.
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. I was looking up. Oh, no. Don't Google dysentery. Images.
Why were God damn.
It's part of my research. Okay. Part of my method.